Come on, baby. It's trying to go live.
So what you know, like Robbie, your email comes to me from like UT.
Yeah.
This at edu. Okay.
That's legit.
Yeah. He's a Longhorn. That makes kind of three of us, really.
Hey, I'm going to the game tomorrow.
It's going to be a blowout.
I'm checking LinkedIn to see if this is going because it's just churning here. You guys don't see it yet, do you?
It says we're live.
Okay.
It says live for 36 seconds. So I don't know if that's really true or not.
Don't mind the back chatter, y'all. Hey, last word. Happy Friday. Christy, KP, how y'all doing?
Howdy.
Doing great. It's fall. It actually got a little cold here this weekend in Southern California. I don't define cold, but the seasons are changing. The winds of change are upon us. We have a tailwind, lower rates, lower inflation this morning. Can you feel it? Feels good.
I can feel it, and we're getting all the helpers here. JD, JA, telling us we're live. Thanks, guys.
Amazing.
So, guess what? You know what we did this week? We're now streaming live, not just to your Zoom webinar, which I love, but now we're streaming. It looks like we're streaming to LinkedIn, Facebook. This episode, like every other episode, will be on the Chrisman YouTube channel. I promise, Robbie. And so we will now every week be streaming live. So all the post-production editing that was happening in the prior episodes, wink, wink, will not be happening. This is what you see is what you get.
It's the best way.
That's right. So it's been a crazy week. We're about to get a nice extended, weekend holiday. Plenty of news as always, but I think where we should start is probably the numbers of the day. You two are much closer than I am because I don't have to be. And so, what'd you guys see this morning? What should folks be thinking about going into the long holiday weekend as it relates to the numbers?
As a true Southern wannabe gentleman, I am from the South. Ladies first.
All right. Well, we're seeing a mixed bag of data. And I think John, who runs consumer lending, is not going to invite me back to any of his meetings because he invited me yesterday. And one of the questions was, we're getting a lot of comments from members about, well, as soon as the Fed lowers interest rates, how soon are you guys going to lower interest rates? And so I wanted to take a moment to really share so that they can share back with the members just what goes into thinking about changes in interest rates, not only because, oh, by the way, we don't know how much the Fed is going to reduce them anyway, but that's not a direct correlation to interest rates of any type from a consumer standpoint. There's almost nothing that the consumer has that is, prime plus. Maybe your HELOC or something like that. But in general, you have some kind of set interest rate that adjusts at whatever period. And our loan rates are tied to so much more than that. And one of the things that we're seeing, in addition to the economic data, but the economic data leads us to this same conclusion, is that we're probably in a recession right now. We probably are. We know that many of our members, many of your borrowers are experiencing financial hardship right now. And we're seeing loan losses go up. Delinquencies are going up. And that has an impact into what rate is being charged, right? Every person who lends out money has to be able to get a return on it. And part of that return is calculated based on loan losses. So not a sexy topic, but it really goes into it. And I think from a mortgage standpoint, you've also got lenders didn't make a profit for 8 quarters. They started to make a little bit of a profit this past quarter, 80% of folks, according to MBA. But there's going to be some margin taking here that has to occur for the industry to continue to not thrive, but survive, right? You got to be able to pay your employees. Corporate cash can only go so far. And so the expectation is the Fed is probably going to have to cut further and faster than they imagine in order to get the results that they want to get, considering how late it has been since they since they did the cut. So I think these are great conversations that you should be having with your leadership team. How open and transparent are they being around what's going on and around some decisions that they're having to make because of loan losses?
I don't know why when you said corporate cash, it kind of stuck out of me. Because so for those that don't know, like I'm one of 4 owners of a privately owned company, an independent mortgage banker, as we're referred to. So I always joke around when I'm on national calls or talking to sales teams or ops teams. I always do air quotes and I go corporate, you know, like I'm corporate, like I'm like me, my founder and CEO and his co-founder, and then our other partner, Paul, Robert, myself, and Gary, like we're quote corporate. Like, so we try and put like a personalized face, you know, to like, yes, like the 4 of us have been dumping cash in this thing the last 2 years because it sucked. But again, nobody really cares. But you try and put a face on it. But you know, you bring up, you know, the Fed cut isn't directly correlated. Like rates have been coming down. They're at the lowest point in 2 years as of yesterday. They've been coming down since October. And so you talk about personalizing and put a face on things and in messaging. How is AI going to tell the world this, right? Like, is a chatbot or an alert in your inbox going to be like, hey, dummy, the Fed's rate doesn't have anything to do with directly with rates. They've already come down. Like, go take a look. Or do you need to call an originator and hear it from someone that you know, like, and trust? That's where I think AI will continue to miss the mark. It may alert people of things, but people are waiting for the Fed to actually cut. They're waiting for the election. They're literally waiting for a president to get elected to decide what to do with the most expensive thing in their monthly nut or their biggest asset. Like, think about that. They're waiting for an election. It's like people need to talk to an expert and be told, here's how you manage your finances. This is what's going on. Let me see if rates right now, which the lowest in 2 friggin' years, are good for you, or if you should wait. And so, you know, all great points, Christy. And yeah, I love the quote corporate part.
Well, you know, I look at corporate cash a little different here too, because it's our members' money. We are chartered.
I am a member.
I know.
I am one of your members. And let me just say, I love your team. Mindy from the Wire Room, when she calls me, she is just a voice of cheer. I love that woman. Anyway, I appreciate you. I just wanted, for those that don't know, I am a University of Federal Credit Union member since my freshman year in 1994 at the Dobie Dorm at University of Texas Austin. And I walk downstairs and open a checking account, and I still use it to this day. So thank you. Now, Christy, who I know, like, and trust and love, is like at the helm over there. It's amazing. So anyway, I just we might have some new viewers now that we got this new format. I wanted to know the backstory, how much I appreciate you and UFCU. Okay, go ahead.
You weren't just going there for the free donuts?
No.
I think it was the credit builder loan that let Kevin go on spring break party time.
You know what? I was always kind of fraidy cat. I never really wanted to take out debt, but gosh, I loved like walking up to the ATM with like my school colors on the logo, and the ATMs were like so convenient and they're everywhere, and you know, it was just great. It started off as a convenience thing, and trust me, it's a little inconvenient being on the West Coast now that I live here, but the team has made it. You know, they're like, oh, we know you're in California, let us take care of you. So like they kind of have that attitude, like you're credit union, you know, and then the rates for the car loans are amazing. But no, I just walked downstairs because it was downstairs. Literally, I mean, that's the only reason I even went there.
I love it.
But I think that really goes back to the heart I see of mortgage originators. Their goal is to always educate and to always be there and to provide that great customer service, right? You hear Mike Seminari talking about it all the time from the Stratmore Group and talking about what a difference customer service makes. And this is our opportunity because there's so much going on in the marketplace with, you know, Brian, as you were pointing out, just the volatility and the difference in the economic data. People need to know, what should they be looking at? Because this is not their day job. This is not the thing that they're looking at. And they need that person who is like Mindy, who is going to take the time to make sure that you're cared for Right. That's our job as loan officers, is to get out there and have that conversation with our realtor partners, educate them. And I know so many of the folks tuning into this do exactly that.
And Brad Neal, longtime friend of mine. He ran a charity golf tournament in Austin. I used to be part of. It's just we got stories there, but now he's a loan officer at UFCU. It's just amazing. It's like literally like a reunion in a family, to me. So.
We appreciate that.
One time,
right? Hook 'em horns.
That's all you're going to get from me.
Nice.
It is. I mean, football started, right? So we're. It's like another kind of passing of the torch, right? From season to season, we're now officially into football season.
Kick off tomorrow for.
Yeah. No más verano es otoño.
So Matthew here has a great point. I just flashed it on the screen. There is a lot of data out there. There's a lot of speculation out there, and we would be remiss if we didn't caution, loan officers. You have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to educate kind of the community, the consumer community at large, as it relates to housing, and each of you, as loan officers or lenders or whatever your role is in our beautiful ecosystem, has a huge responsibility. And so Matt's really just reminding us, we don't need the clickbait, we don't need the headlines. Let's stick to the facts, ma'am, as it was said in a show at one point, or just the facts, whatever it was. There
are many that are not old enough to know that show.
I know. Yeah, you might be one of those.
No, I'm with you. All
right. Okay. So we're 13 minutes in. This is our first live on LinkedIn and wherever else we're showing up. We're going to keep adding streams to this. So today, I think we're just piping to LinkedIn. But if you're coming in hot right now, welcome. This is the last word. We're going to be here every Friday at the same time. Kind of depending on where you are in time zones, you might be finishing up lunch. You might just be sitting down to lunch. It could be finishing that martini, picking up the first one, or in KP's case,
it is a long weekend.
Marys.
No, I'm not. I am not reaching back for on a prior episode the Arch MI longest drive contest winner that I filled with tequila. Remember, I broke my 30-day.
Oh yeah.
No drinking on this show live, but no, today I'm going to be a good boy. I still have a couple more meetings to do, but it is Labor Day weekend, so we're going into a long weekend. So, for what it's worth, what we do for a living and helping people get educated about housing and get into a house, we've set so many people up to go and celebrate the new school year, the new football season, the long Labor Day weekend for barbecues, the change of the seasons from summer to fall. We help set that up. It's pretty cool. So this is one of the best weekends of the year for sure.
Totally. So last thing is a reminder that this last word is a Chrisman commentary show, right? We are privileged and fortunate to be part of the Chrisman community. We close out the week of content with this show, and again, we're here every Friday afternoon. I'm hooked on the earlier shows in the week. There's just such great content coming out from Chrisman. So Robbie, thank you again for all you do, and for folks that are following us here on LinkedIn. We want to pump up the Chrisman LinkedIn profile. So go over there and like the Chrisman profile. Let's build up their. Let's get Rob Chrisman on LinkedIn. I want to see him commenting, not Robbie, not Rob, commenting on a post on LinkedIn sooner than later. So, all right, let's pivot over to. We're now a couple weeks.
Pivot.
Gosh, I got to quit saying that. I forget it's a trigger word for you. We're a couple weeks into the NAR settlement, right? And so maybe not. People are getting settled in to the post settlement. What have you guys heard this week? What's kind of the latest and greatest from your teams as it relates to the agents they're working with and them coming to grips with kind of the new new world order.
Go ahead, KP.
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah, let you go first. We'll bounce it back and forth.
Okay. Well, I would say so far business as usual. I haven't heard any horror stories yet. It might be too soon. So, I know, let's say, less than feared or not as bad as feared or better than feared. I mean, how do you say it? Change sucks, especially, everyone has a different mindset when it comes to change. And, it's so funny. Like the way people react and how they type on LinkedIn posts, you can just tell like whether they're a pessimist, an optimist, bearish, bullish. And you sit there and go like, not to be judgy, but just to a general statement. Like, imagine if you were so fearful and pessimistic about, let's just say the stock market, for example, you just miss like the greatest run ever in stock, right? Yeah. Because you're like, gold. You just, all this debt, we're going to die and everything's going to blow up. Just gold. You just say the same thing over and over and over and over your entire life. And like, I guess you feel better about yourself, but, and again, that's not taking a shot at anybody, but it's like, real estate agents are going through some change, but they're going to fight through it. They're going to fight through it, and they're going to come out the other side stronger. It's actually a stronger bond to have that conversation up front. Like, hey, here's what I'm worth. Here's what I'm going to do for you. It forces realtors to sell themselves up front, not just, hey, let me find your house. And I'm not trying to like dumb it down to just that, but it's a conversation that not all of them were having before, and now they're forced to. Now I'm gonna take the other side of that coin. I do hate that the government is stepping in once again, like they did the loan officers, and trying to control how much we make. And so, and of course, that's just what, government generally likes to do. They're talking about taxing unrealized gains. And I'm like, hey, how about you guys stop spending so much money? Stop spending our money. You want to talk about a member? I'm a member of this country. We all are. And you're spending our money unwisely. Okay, I digress. Anyway, so I think change is inevitable in every industry. And from what I've understood, the realtors are handling it like total badasses.
I still feel like there's a lot of confusion, and I think the confusion has migrated a little bit. So I don't know that people just don't know what the next steps are. And so anytime you do something new, it takes a little bit longer. And so I think we're seeing a little bit of a lag in usual productivity that you would see with what you're seeing in the marketplace and what you're seeing in just the time of year and changes in people's lives. It's taking a little bit longer to get to that next step because every seller's had to redo their documents. Every buyer is having to ask more questions, right? It's pushing things to a different part of the conversation, but that means it's taking longer to get to where we are. And there's a lot of questions and validation that's needed when you're talking to your loan officers, when borrowers are talking to them like, hey, am I doing the right thing? Is this the proper process? And then loan officers are having questions too around, well, do I need a copy of this? And how do we upload it? And how do we make sure that things don't change? And is that necessary? So not every company has consistent policies. I think we're an industry that we've had a lot of very consistent policies. There's always change, but we've had a lot of consistency that comes out from FHFA and Ginnie Mae. And, we're highly regulated. And so things go along this path with guardrails. And here we are in something new that doesn't have those same type of guardrails. And I think that that's showing up in just the length of conversations people are needing to have, the depth of knowledge across a couple of different things. And then internally, what do we need to collect? How do we need to show it? What are those policies and procedures going to look like on a go forward basis? And I think to KP's point, it's going to take a little bit of time before that all gets settled out. And I'd say that time is not, another 2 weeks. I'd say that time is, another 2 to 6 months, that we're still going to see some fluctuations in just how the day-to-day functioning works. So be there to support your real estate agents. Be there to support them through the conversation and what may be different at one lender versus another. Be open to, you may not be doing it right. You may not be where the ball settles. And there may be some changes on a go forward basis. And we just need to stay atop of that to make sure we're doing the best thing for our borrowers that we can do and the best thing to support our real estate partners.
Well said.
Yeah, I think it's like everything. It's all about communication, right? It's all about setting expectations and having those conversations. And to your point, KP, I do think it ultimately will make those relationships between buyer's agent and home buyer stronger. It's also going to quickly weed out some relationships, and that's a good thing too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like you guys. I haven't heard, there's been no like catastrophes this week. Haven't heard of any deals blowing up, and I don't think people are getting it figured out just like we always do as humans, right? We kind of adapt and overcome.
Oh,
I think about what happened during when we got a brand new federal holiday, and I think we had like 4 days to get ready for it. Like that was a lot of chaos and a lot of work, and it all worked out. It may not have been the smoothest ride, but it did all work out despite the size of our pipelines at that point. This feels a lot more controlled. This feels a little bit easier to work with. We had a little bit longer. The impact has not been as great as some of those things are, and we're moving forward with it like champs as an industry.
And good parallel, guys. Real quick, our little show here is going through a little chaos at this moment. LinkedIn is not playing nice with our stream, so we may or may not be seen right now on LinkedIn, but because we're on the StreamYard platform, when we're done, Robbie's going to get the full episode uploaded to YouTube, and you'll not miss anything. So we're going to over adapt and overcome right here in real time on The Last Word.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I know nobody wants to shed a tear for corporate, but man, I feel so bad for these large real estate firms that are caught up in this settlement, having to pay millions of dollars. They did what they thought was playing by the rules all this time, and then there's this huge cash grab. And whoever it is out there, I don't need to name names, but some of these business owners are writing massive checks over this. And God, maybe there's a little libertarian streak in me, but to me, it's just a tax. It's a money grab. Taxation is theft to me. So I feel bad for these owner operators of these large real estate brokerages. And so someone does care about the money you guys put on the line. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that.
It all matters because ultimately that cost trickles back down to consumers. Yeah. Nothing is free. Everything has.
The lawyers get paid. The lawyers got paid. Way to go, lawyers! You argued about too much of a commission. You got a big commission. God, that made me sick. Anyway,
you might be a libertarian.
Maybe a little, but it just on that note, it's an impractical, actual like political philosophy because you have to play with the rest of the world, and like. True libertarians are like, we don't do anything in foreign policy. Well, when you don't, like we've been seeing the last couple of years, you have wars that break out, and you lose something that's called the peace dividend. And there is a wealth effect, a peace dividend when there's peace in the world. And so when your leadership of this country, and this isn't an endorsement, I'm just saying it's one of the things that's one of my issues. But when there's peace around the world, we have better trade. You don't have Houthi rebels blowing up oil tankers and shutting down commerce and forcing people to change their shipping routes, which change the cost of goods, which decrease the amount of oil which goes into our pocketbook in a long holiday weekend like this when you pay more for gas potentially, which causes a recession, by the way. Almost every recession is almost immediately, preceded by rising oil costs. But, a peace dividend is a real thing. It affects our business, all of our business. And so that's one thing where I think libertarianism, fails miserably. I'm not a statist, as they would call someone, but it's nice to have peace around the world because then commerce gets to hum along nicely. We got enough problems when, with supply chain and demand, and we have tons of problems to deal with in commerce. We don't need yet another one. So it'd be nice to have peace around the world for, I don't know, maybe 12 months.
I'd like to have world peace and no hunger. So we're going to put all those things right up there at the top of problems we can solve.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that we're going to solve those today, but maybe we can talk about some housing proposals.
I was going to say, if we solve those today, this will be the top-rated 30-minute show in history.
LinkedIn might turn us back on. Oh, hey, Lee's good.
Yeah. These guys, they get a cheeseburger. So right now, housing affordability has really become a hot topic amongst everybody. And for me, what I have seen over my lifetime of being in this business is housing affordability and getting everyone the opportunity to purchase a home really has no political bounds. Everybody agrees that this is something that we should be doing and devoting energy to. It's something that doesn't have a magic bullet to fix it. But what you tend to see is that people approach it from very different ways, right? If you're extremely conservative, you approach it one way. If you're extremely liberal, you approach it another way. The vast majority of people are somewhere in the middle and they have a different approach. And so there is no one right answer, because I think we would have found it by now with so many people caring about it. But we saw, I think it was this week that Kamala put out some housing proposals. We've seen the state of California talk about some things that they were going to do around housing. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, just I'm a Texan. I'm from Dallas. I live here in Orange County. I'm in Newport Beach the last 8.5 years. From Florida, by the way. I was in Fort Lauderdale. It's interesting because, so many people here, let's just start with California. So many people here in California are Californians. They never leave. Like, it's their home. And I always ask people, have you ever lived outside of California? And they're all like 90% of the time, they're like, no.
Right.
And so their perspective is very interesting because they don't have any other perspective. And they just kind of plod along, I guess this is what our government's doing, I've lived in Austin, Dallas, Chicago, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, now Newport Beach. And, I'm I don't know. I guess my response for every single proposal, regardless of the candidate, is how are we going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? It's an election year. I take everything with a grain of salt. They're all talking smack to get votes. I get it. And they're pulling at everyone's heartstrings. But zooming back out and getting even, bigger picture than just talking politics, we don't have enough housing supply. And I will tie it back to what I think is, if you could point to one thing, the government decided to bail out banks and banks only in 2008 during the great financial crisis. If everyone recalls, they
Not
chose,
all banks.
yeah, they chose 17. So it's true. and no independent mortgage bankers, by the way. So they didn't bail out builders. So builders crumbled, and they coalesced, and then they kind of it grew into this, oligarchy where there's just a few really big builders that can build at scale. There's a lot of little builders right now, but so builders control supply, like the major builders really control the supply. So until we have some kind of disruption in home innovation, maybe tiny homes or more manufactured style housing, 3D printed housing, affordable housing, tiny houses, is unless we get behind something like that, who's going to pay for the houses that are being built today that are not enough because the government already tried to interject or didn't interject? And I'm not arguing for them to have interjected, but they bailed out banks and they chose winners based on balance sheets. And so we are woefully undersupplied, at least 3 million units in this country. You could say, some people say 5, depends on your number and your math. But, I think that's why the Fed's giving up on inflation. They know, even if it's sticky now at this point for housing, they can't do anything about it. Can't build more houses. So Jay Powell isn't grabbing a hammer and nails.
Maybe we all should give a little bit back to Habitat for Humanity.
I did Habitat. It was great.
Right there. It's awesome. I love doing Habitat and getting out into the first community housing area. They gave me a pickaxe. Who gives me a pickaxe? It was so much fun. But it's also good to get out and do things in your community. And, we want to be able to do the things that impact our backyard. I saw some numbers from the National Association of Home Builders, and I can't remember the exact percentage, and I won't make it up, but it was a significant percentage of their cost is around regulation. And so, there's a lot of things that we can do that will have a positive impact on the cost of housing. because in many markets, builders are setting that cost because they're the only game in town. There's not as many resales for all the reasons that we've talked about in the past. And so getting some control on regulatory costs, getting some ideas around how do we get a tiny house? How do we get accessory dwelling units? You know, living in Savannah for 25 years, it's very common to have a carriage house that is a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom type place attached to a much larger, or sometimes it's detached as a true accessory dwelling unit, but they call them carriage houses. And they're very popular, right? It gives you that higher density. It remains true to the character of the homes and the era in which most of these things were built. You know, in Austin, I see a lot of casitas that's very similar, different terminology, different rules and regulations, but it's going to take some innovation, and it's going to take some innovation at the local level that allows it to have capital behind it. If it's not financeable, you can have the best idea in the world, but without the ability to get the capital, it's not going anywhere.
And to that point, which, by the way, I love Terrytown. I lived at 32nd in Duval for 2 years, pretty close by, and also on 22nd in Oasis. I would say that is the point of the Fed cutting rates. The flow of money and capital will now come back into everything, including that. Rates for construction are coming down. Venture capital is likely to put more money to work. There'll be some innovative construction companies that are going to come along. I heard there are 1,200 unicorn companies. That's companies valuation at $1 billion or more, waiting to go public and have an IPO in the public markets, whether it's through the New York Stock Exchange or whatever. And so money is about to get put to work. It's about to be risk on, and like it or love it, money, greases the skids and gets everything going. There are some people that hate money, but it handles a lot of stuff. So your point is well taken. Credit, but it's credit. So if this is for raw numbers, if there's $50 trillion of money in the world, $1 trillion of that is actual cash, or maybe some math will say 2 to 3. The rest of that 50 is lent on credit. And that's the capital markets. That's what we do. We buy and sell money. As amazing as our American dream is, we buy and sell money.
So guys, we are at that time. And as always, I love listening to both of you. You guys are among the brightest in the business. Your insights are always super helpful. It's time to probably get the cold ones on ice. Get the backyard set up for the weekend barbecues, and get on with our long holiday weekend. It's been awesome spending time with the two of you, and all y'all that are out there that fought through our LinkedIn struggles. We will have this episode on the Chrisman Commentary YouTube channel ASAP. I'm going to call Robbie right when we're done. Starting next week, we'll stream here on LinkedIn, but we'll also stream it directly to that YouTube channel. And we'll get on the hotline with the LinkedIn folks and figure out what the heck went wrong on their end. But guys, thanks again for another awesome last word brought to you by the Chrisman Commentary.
Thank you all. Happy weekend.
Hey, thank you all. Cheers. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.